Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today and to see each of you presenting your information. It is my honor to present to Patricia Robertson, who's going to be our first speaker. Her area of focus is on prioritizing the well-being of peace builders, healing transgenerational trauma, and building inner peace. Really looking and evaluating peace builders and how they respond to conflict in the world. So where's Patricia?
I'm right here.
Okay, come on.
All right, it's just traumatizing being up here leading this off. So, okay, we've got the first one up. Good. So my research topic is prioritizing the well-being of peace builders, healing transgenerational trauma, and building inner peace. Over the next 5 minutes, I will cover the following agenda: the research context, the topic of my research, why this research is important, the research question, transgenerational trauma, the research goals, theoretical framework, the methodology, and why I'm interested in this topic. The world wars of the 20th century did not end all wars. Peace building is one response to the continuous situations of conflict that are prevalent today. At the macro level of nations and global institutions, truth commissions are often the peace-building response. They rarely address the unresolved emotional trauma of the individual members of society. Kofi Annan laments that inaction and long-term neglect has eroded the fabric of society, leading to cycles of increased violence and transmitted transgenerational trauma. At the micro level, the process of peace begins with the individual finding inner peace, and it shifts outward into the world. A literature review of contemporary peace-building models and actions reveals a lack of awareness about transgenerational trauma, a lack of adequate training for peace builders working in situations of trauma, and peace-building models that are reactive in nature rather than proactive and preventative. Peter Levine cautions that traditional forms of psychotherapy and intellectual exercises such as debriefing have limited effectiveness due to the psychosomatic nature of trauma. He claims that trauma shocks the brain, stuns the mind, and freezes the body. Everyday overwhelm or the perception of threat is enough to imprint trauma in the body. Sometimes it has a powerful immediate impact, and sometimes it's a slow, subtle impact that appears years later. My research is guided by the question: in what ways can current peace-building models and practices be adapted to prioritize the well-being of frontline peace builders, heal transgenerational trauma, and build inner peace before, during, and after deployment into communities to work with individuals who are traumatized? Albrecht Maher suggests that the wounded healer is a common archetype found in the field of peace building. Carrying unresolved transgenerational trauma and lacking inner peace leaves any peace builder open to and more prone to being impacted by the trauma of others. Secondary trauma and burnout are often the result. Passed down from generation to generation, the wounds of the past underlie and greatly influence the present well-being and functioning of human beings. My 5 research goals include linking the field of peace building to the field of healing transgenerational trauma. I'm going to conduct follow-up interviews with clients, create a transdisciplinary body of knowledge, generate theory, and develop an effective transferable model to recognize, address, and transform transgenerational trauma. My research will be examined through the philosophies of Bert Hellinger of Germany and the phenomenological practice of systemic constellations. Hellinger's early work developed in response to the transgenerational trauma experienced by the descendants of Nazi Germany and those who survived the Holocaust. As a practitioner researcher, I currently intend to use comparative inductive case study methodology. I will analyze my professional practice in facilitating the healing of transgenerational trauma and quadrangulate my findings with epigenetics, systemic constellations, and the final reports of the Canadian Truth and Reconciliation Commission. My research reflects a postmodern feminist worldview and specifically feminist fractured foundationalism, as proposed by Sue Weiss and Liz Stanley in 2006. Since 1993, these researchers have worked to ensure at long last that knowledge has a human face and a feeling heart. I have trained in the field of peace building and in the field of healing transgenerational trauma, and I see great potential in bringing these two fields together. During my master's research project at Royal Roads in 2011, one survey respondent commented, "The notion of first encouraging personal healing is fundamental to any credible intercultural model or organization. How could anyone seriously seek on a broader cultural level what they are unwilling or unable to first seek on a committed personal level?" It was this question that set me on a path to better understand what it means to heal transgenerational trauma. Thank you. So, you didn't put my last screen up. There was one last one I was putting up. There it is.
Oh, that's great. We can leave it there.
What did you
Sorry. That's wonderful. Good job.
It's also my honor to introduce to you Litan Furukawa, who's also in the doctorate program, and really her research focuses on the increases in the rapid growth of the number of international students in British Columbia. And so with that in mind, she is focusing her study on projecting beyond present horizons of discovery, I am who I am not, acknowledging the strangeness and intensifying consciousness, a case study of the Global Community Program. Right, so welcome, Litan.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you so much for attending my presentation. And my name is Litan Furukawa. And today my topic is projecting beyond the present horizons rediscovery. I am who I am not yet. Acknowledging strangeness and intensify consciousness, a case study of global community program. I know this is. It looks like very long and sounds like a poetic title. So I was thinking, how can I present in 5 minutes about my research? So I will give the audience why and how I'm going to do this research. So I just want to know how many people in this room do you feel or you have a culture shock which you're living in this country or the country you have lived? Okay, that's the matter. But especially for international students, I think this is a very important and a crucial part. When they move to a new country, that's we call it, this process is called a cross-cultural adaptation. So for example, I'm going to meet a new person. So my name's Litan.
Hi, I'm Charles.
Charles, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So that's the Western way. So for the Japanese way, hi, I'm Litan. Well, that's the Japanese, but I interpret it in English. So first time we meet each other, very nice of you. Nice to meet you. Yes, please. So actually, the best way to actually we met. We don't, keep the distance, no touch each other, no body language. And when we talk to each other, actually, for you, because I'm sorry, I think you're older than me. So I should talk like this way. And I don't think I'm supposed to look at your eyes often. It's not about staring you, but it's about I respect the people. Well, in Japanese culture. So when we talk to a professor who is older than you and the position above you, so we keep the low distance. So I have problem always like this. So that's the one part of my culture. So, and look at my name. My name is Litan Furukawa. So I have two family cultural roots actually. So this is it's not non-profit. It's H1, right? So it has a relationship. So you look at my name and related to my appearance and my language, and you probably think what kind of cultural roots I have. So I'm half Japanese and half Portuguese. So yeah, and my eye color is different than most of Asian people. So that's first reason I'm doing my research, because my personal experience and because my father's job, I had to move around the world. So I lived in different countries. So that's the reason I know chefs when I lived in Amsterdam. And I'm able to talk about chefs in a Kane's class. Where's Kane? Oh, nice to see you here. So also I will know the soul music because I lived in Louisiana, and I know a lot of black people, and I joined a band. I play the keyboard. So, and also I'm very happy to be here because I don't need to identify myself as a Japanese or Portuguese. I am a Canadian. So that's my personal experience. So, and because of my personal experience, so I could have my academic life. And also this build up my career path. So that's the reason I'm doing my research. And how I'm doing that, so I don't think I can cover all of them. But introduction is already done because the why I doing research. And the literature review, I based on Massing grain theory and King's adoption methodology. So I come up. That's and the background. So look at we're the big. We have multicultural in Canada, and also a lot of things I want to cover, and how many international students in Canada. So basically, I adopt an ethnographic approach to my research, and I actually started this program 2 years ago. It's called a Global Community Program. And I help UVic international students since 2014. And I hope I could have more things to come up later. And yeah, thank you so much.
Disaster, whether natural or unnatural, are socially and culturally constructed events and processes. It is my great honor to introduce Matthew Ocholi, whose research is focusing on oil spills, disaster, and the Ogoni people. Social and cultural perspectives, disaster cannot be defined by the physical.
Thank you. Hello? Yeah. Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. So my name is Matthew Ocholi. If you listened to me last year at the first residency, you probably maybe seen that my topic has evolved a little bit, but it's still focused on oil spills. So in terms of introduction, I just wanted to just lay out there, some points about disaster. It's not everything. It's a very complex area. So, and it's because of the perspectives people bring into it. When researchers they look at different aspects. So it's a whole, a compendium of things. But looking at it from the physical complexity, the tendency is to look at that physical thing. So it could be, it could be just a flood. It could be any form of catastrophe. And the tendency is to look at it and say, okay, that is the disaster. But research has shown that disaster is not really the physical event. It's really, what has been, those social and cultural, political, some other things behind, how those things have worked together, how they've come together, it's actually what determines, the disaster itself. That's really just as a way of background. So I'm interested in Ogoni land, which is in Nigeria. So the whole of that, where you have the shaded area, all that way is called the Niger Delta, and Ogoni land is in Rivers State in Nigeria. So in terms of background, oil spills are unnatural events. They can cause damage to life properties and the environment and affect community livelihood. Ogoni land is about 1,000 square kilometers with about 832,000 people. So it's not terribly that big, but now, one of the things that triggered my interest in this area is this report by UNEP in 2011, where they looked at the fact that oil spills have been going on in this environment for close to, as at 1993, close to 35 years. And that relic is still there. And so a lot of damage has been done. Farmlands, means of livelihood have been tampered with, and this community is still ongoing. So I just wanted to show these vivid, pictures of some of the kind of things you will find when you walk into Ogoni land, and this is just a tip of the iceberg, so you can see land, farmlands all destroyed. Some of these, like the report was saying, has been there for 40 years, and these people still live there. So, things like that, more pictures. These are all water bodies. These are all, water bodies. And these are their livelihood, aspects. So you can see that man, this is an interesting one. So he has fish in his boat. And look at, the oil, slick on the water. So this is this is the life they live, And that is a fish pond, This is a fish pond. And it's all submerged in oil. So for me, my focus is this. So looking at these people, the interest is to say, how have they, been able to cope with oil spill disaster in the past 50 years? And I say 50 years because I'm talking about now. So Shell started work in Ogoni land in 1958. And as we speak, the cleanup has not started. And these people still live within all of this. So the question is, what factors, what social factors have constructed this disaster? Because I refer to it, even though it's not a sudden event, it's spanned over a period, but part of the question I'm also asking myself, even though I'm calling it disaster now, one of the things I'll be looking at is, does it really actually fall within the way literature has described the disaster, but so those are some of the things. But the quick question is, what are the social, cultural, political factors that have contributed to this? And then how have the Ogoni people been able to cope with the oil spill disaster in the past 50 years? So these are things that my study, will be looking into. And this is not about, trying to create a theory or anything. It's just about trying to see how, in what different ways have they been able to deal with the issue of disaster, that they are going through. And I intend to look into, use the ethnography as my methodology and, probably have some interviews, some focus group discussions, observations, and document review. A little bit of oral history. Thank you very much.
Productivity is central to a project in context of natural component in everything that we do and has significant effects on what and how we produce goods and services for a local community. So Brian, it is my pleasure to introduce Brian Mendoza Dominguez. His focus of his study is focusing on building better community, value-driven productivity in local construction.
So a year and a half jammed into 5 minutes. I'm gonna try to get through this fast. So the importance of productivity on values is what I'm looking at. Limits to efficiency. There are real limits, not theoretical limits to efficiency, and diseconomies of scale. Without limits, we cause collapse. So when we take something too, this is all obvious, I shouldn't say obvious, but when we take it too far, it tends to fall apart. Using local values to drive productivity and construction industry, which is full of waste, and I'll explain that quickly. So there's two images up here. The one on the left, decimated whale population due to productivity. So by the 1950s, we didn't have a commercial whaling industry anymore, and we almost didn't have any whales. That's productivity. That's what productivity can do for us. On the right, we've got the Large Hadron Collider. Incredible feat of human engineering thanks to productivity. Something else that productivity can do for us. It's a double-edged sword, okay? Depends on how we use it, what values we apply it to. And in the case of the whales, where the limits are. So Jevons paradox and the coal question of 1865, William Jevons was put to do some research by the coal cartel to find out how long they could make their coal last, because they said we only have this much. And Jevons figured out that, well, if we become more productive and efficient in technology with our coal, that actually the paradox is we don't make it last, we consume it more. Again, this productivity factor working for the Industrial Revolution. This was good for us, but it went a little too far, didn't it? Very recently, Bloomberg says lessons of a coal giant's collapse. Coal is collapsing. We're losing it. And these businesses, and what Bloomberg's talking about right here is, who's going to clean this up? It's a huge environmental disaster, and they're out of business. They're not going to clean it up. It went too far, didn't it? Limits, values. This is looking at our second law of thermodynamics. Carnot's original treatise suggests transfer of energy, certain limits for any natural system. It's going to come around. Williamson called this energy transfer across hierarchical levels a loss of control. Industry Canada puts about 10 employees where the net profit margin is the largest. So how does this work? Is there a laser on this thing? Okay, so up here we see on the top one here, we see how scale progresses, and we see that the costs reduce, right? And then we hit a diseconomies of scale. As we get bigger, productivity ends to burn out, like we're talking about, thermodynamics. Costs start going up again. This globalization of supply chain becomes really inefficient. Down here, we actually see where net profit margin actually begins to reduce after about 10 employees, if you measure that by size. The problem is that your net profit margin starts to squeeze, everything gets uglier. Corporations get less collaborative, they get more aggressive. It starts to scale down, right? Diseconomies of scale cause crazy behavior towards collapse. So productivity can be used for good, and it can lead to disaster. But who determines what's good? Who gets to pick? And how do we know where to stop? Who sets those limits? How do they get set? And why should we? Trans-Canada Pipeline, I love this one. Trans-Canada Pipeline is working on getting over to Kitimat, right? This is pretty recent, May or something. May of this year. TransCanada says it has approvals from 11 First Nations communities along the length of the proposed pipeline route after securing 2 more project agreements in January. It said progress is being made with the remaining First Nations groups. Progress securing First Nations groups. That doesn't really sound like we've progressed much in the last 100 years or so, does it? Whose value is this? Is it the First Nations groups? Just because you got them to sign? Is that their value? I don't know, right? But I don't think it is. Social license, corporate social responsibility. Whose value is the question? We know productivity is driving it. Good. We love productivity. It works. What about the community's values? What's driving their values? How do we get productivity to drive their values and see what that outcome is? And do we even know what those values are? Why local? Green talks about biological, was that time? Biological speaking, humans were designed for cooperation, okay? But only with some people, and probably just with individuals. This talks to locality. This talks to how we engage as a community and the reasons why communities can set those values and they can set those limits because they know what's important. People on the other side of the country, they have their different set of values. And construction, because I picked construction. I've come from manufacturing, and since the 90s, we've been kicking butt in productivity. Construction's terrible, so it's low-hanging fruit. It impacts everything, this building that we sit in, how it's designed, who it's designed for, what the values are. We can make some gains there. And to summarize, how can we leverage community values to drive productivity in local business? Thank you.